If you look closely at Aljamain's win over Sandhagen this weekend, when he took the back, he put his right foot in the cage to get his left hip in place to put that hook in. And I was wondering if that's a foul. Is that something that you can do? Use your foot inside the cage to get a hook in. Be interested to know what you think about that.
Okay, so you bring up a fine point, and I saw that as well. Now, I must tell you, I don't know that I saw it from a vantage point, but let me at least tell you how the rule works without me passing judgment on the interpretation of what happened there. But so you understand, you can touch the fence 100%. You can post on the fence. Now, anytime you post with a hand, if your hand simply does this, you are now grabbing the fence. You post on it with your toes. If your toes simply curl, you're now grabbing the fence. You're just using your toes. So those are the two body parts that have to be looked at the most. But obviously, we would understand that you can touch the fence. I mean, by example, your opponent grabs an underhook, drives you across the cage, and now your back's up against the fence, right? Well, your back isn't grabbing the fence, so there's nothing to see there. Anytime it's hands, anytime it's feet, they look for the bend or curl of the fingers or toes. The way I saw what Aljo did, he did nothing more than post, which you are most certainly allowed to do. To put that in perspective for you, the Showtime kick where Anthony Pettis ran up the cage, turned, kicked off it, and connected with Benson Henderson, which even won an ESPY award. It was so amazing. But that would be the same technique. I mean, right? Even though he's turning that into a kick, you're still just using that cage to post on. I don't think we even have a conspiracy here. I think it was very clear that Sterling was just posting to create a little separation so he could sink that in. That's what I saw. I hope that answers your question.
Is there anybody in MMA who is more likable than Amanda Nunes? I've been thinking about this, and I mean, just from how she acts in interviews and how she treated Felicia Spencer after she dominated her for 5 rounds. Forget the fact that she's the best female fighter of all time for sure, maybe the best fighter of all time. I mean, we'll see. She's just so likable. I mean, never has a bad thing to say about anybody. She's wonderful to reporters and in interviews, and always super nice to her opponents. So, bit of a layup question here for you, but is she the nicest person in MMA, maybe besides Stephen Thompson? I'd love to hear what you think.
She's up there. She is right up there. And what you see is what you get. You're seeing the real Amanda. If you ever meet her outside of those opportunities where some fighters try to be nice and you can see right through it for the most part. And some you go, I can't tell if this is an act or not. Or some try to be unliked and take the other end of the pool. But you never know what's the show. What is the mark? And with her, what you see is what you get. You meet her outside of the cage, that you're going to get nothing presumptuous from her. She is not going to talk to you like she's talking down to you and she's the world champion just because you're telling her you're a fan and you would like her picture. She will talk to you like a normal human being. That's right. Yeah, I do that sport. One of those type things. It would be open for interpretation, but you don't get what you think you would get from her because she is so tough and rough. Chris Cyborg would definitely fall into that. Anyone who's ever met her, myself included, but also people I meet who have met her, all come away with the same opinion of what a nice person she was. So yeah, how do you like that? Two of the nicest people in the sport. And there's also a surprise factor to it though, right? Like, I think if you met Demetrius Johnson, yeah, of course, he's going to be wonderful to you, but you would expect him to be. So maybe he wouldn't get the same credit for being nice because it's what you thought. Amanda and Cyborg are so vicious. They are so vicious, and the skills that they possess are nothing short of mean. They learn mean things. I mean, they're learning combat without arms. So then when you find out how genuine and even kind, and kind isn't a word you can always use. It's a word you would like to hear. You'd like to meet kind people. You'd like to be kind yourself, but it's not something that you can use all that much. Amanda Cyborg, kind.
What's up, Chael P? This Junebug in South Omaha. Got another question for you. That Garbrandt Assunção fight, it's a rules question. I know you did a lot of heavy lifting, as you would say, back in the day, but I got to ask you a rules question. If Garbrandt lands that same shot he hit Assunção with, knocks him out, just like he did, but say he does it a split second after the bell, and he knocks him out. Ref calls the fight over, the fight's over, but it was after the bell. What happens in that situation? Is that a disqualification? Do they go to replay for something like that? that where this new replay rule would come into play? Or if it's in the state that they in, I don't know. Sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. But that's a whole different issue. But what happens if that shot is after the bell? Take care. Keep doing your thing.
Okay, so I'm interpreting it to mean that it is after the bell and it is recognized after the bell. We're not disputing the time. It's what the so here's the way that would have to look. The punch, okay, the ball leaves the plate. The punch leaves the body. The bell rings and then the punch connects. If that were to happen, that would not be a disqualification. You would also then have to couple it in with the fact, and this would be open for interpretation. Did the athlete know the round was over? And don't ever forget this rule. The bell does not stop the fight. The referee stops the fight. So if you ever were to throw what could be viewed as a sucker punch, and possibly even is, but you throw it before the referee steps in, you would be within your rights to do so. I'll explain why in just a moment. But we are instructed as athletes. Okay, this is why the number one rule at all times is protect yourself at all times. It's because of that, because at no point do you get to put your guard down. And this is a theory that has been tested. Floyd Mayweather tested this theory when Victor Ortiz put his hands down. Thought there was a break, thought the ref had called something, thought it was a horn. I can't remember what he thought, but either way, he thought there was a break in the action. There wasn't. Floyd knocked his ass out. Floyd grabbed the microphone after and says, protect yourself at all times. And the announcer tried to say, yeah, but you know that he thought, and you know that the referee knew that he thought, and the referee just didn't make the signal. So Floyd says, protect yourself at all times. It was one of the great interviews ever, but Floyd is right, and there was no punishment done for that. It was in fair time, and I will just remind you, the bell notifies the ref to notify the athletes. That is the chain of events. So if we're splitting hairs here, and it sounds like your question is what happens if we have to split hairs? That would all be very relevant, because if it was ruled that either the ball had left the plate or the referee had not stepped in, it would be in what is called fair time. So it would not end in a disqualification. Now, each jurisdiction has the right to have intricacies within their rules. I know most of the jurisdictions, but I do not know them off the top of my head. And in fairness, I would have to look that up. But a no contest would definitely be at play. It is not like boxing, where because 2/3 of the contest are done, you would turn to the cards. In no scenario would you ever turn to the cards. You would either have disqualification option, TKO option, no contest option. Those would all have to be looked at. The referee likely would even consult an outside official, either a member of the commission, an executive director, in that case would be Bob Bennett, or another official who sits outside the ring. There would likely be group thought brought into that. They would have the right to instant replay now, something that wasn't true 10 years ago, but they could do instant replay now to help them with that decision. But no, Cody, unless it was ruled and decided by the referee that he threw that punch in bad time, he would not be disqualified.